Hey Brambleton, it's Principal Dawson here. I'm just going to walk you through a little bit about our distance learning experience here at Brambleton. If you notice behind me, for all of you all that know, I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan. So I have this Drew Brees behind me because during the daytime when I'm at my computer, sometimes there is a glare. So that's why you see Drew Brees, although he is prevalent in my home. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this presentation because I want to answer some of the questions. In the first slide, you saw the head of a bear, and you really didn't get to see what was kind of going on under the water. So I wanted to share with you guys that there is a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes in shaping and forming some of the decisions that we're making. So with regard to Edmentum and synchronous learning, these are two things that our school division has said, hey, we want to make sure that you include Edmentum, as I've shared in the principal memo, and also you want to have some opportunities where students can engage in some synchronous learning. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to take what we've gotten from our division and that guidance, and then I'm also going to take feedback that I've gotten from some of my students and some of my parents, and we're going to try to streamline this process for you a bit. So distance learning, what's going on? The first thing we want to talk about is some of our celebrations. So students and teachers today were able to see each other for the first time in weeks. And it was really, really wonderful. Students were participating in and really enthusiastically participating in this Google Meet. And they were also really following those Google Meet expectations. So I'm really proud of our kids for that. Students also were able to get a lot of questions answered during this time with their teachers. And there were lots of smiles in these Google Meet meetings. So the other thing that was in these meetings was also questions, right? And as this is a learning experience and we're really trying to navigate this, there are things that arise. And I appreciate my parents that sent emails to ask questions. And I want you to know that we have considered feedback from students, parents, and teachers to really kind of streamline meeting the expectations of the division, and then also making sure that we listen to the voices of the people in our community. So there were several questions that I thought would be very good to answer. How might we streamline the emails from staff? How might we get a schedule that is easy to understand? And what is the synchronous learning again? And where is Edmentum in all of this? So I'm going to try to go through and answer that for you. So the first question was, how might we streamline the emails from staff? So I heard some really fantastic feedback from my parents, and I really appreciate that. And so one of the things that we are going to do is our staff is going to communicate solely through the HyperDoc. And the HyperDoc is coming from the dean. So on Sundays, you all will get your Dean weekly update that has the assignments with suggestions for kids to do during the week. And remember, these are suggestions. So what our teachers have really tried to do is give students suggestions on what they could work on Monday, what they could work on Tuesday, and so on and so forth. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a minute. But I want you to look at this sample schedule where you see on this HyperDoc the A-Day classes. Your Google Meet is going to happen between 9 and 9:45. B-Day classes on Wednesday, yours would happen between 9 and 9:45. So the kids who are in this teacher's A-Day classes, they know that their synchronous learning experience will happen on Monday, whereas if that teacher, those B-Day students, your experience would happen on Wednesday. All of that is communicated in this document. And then if you notice, the office hours are also listed on there. So we will talk a little bit more about the A-Day and the B-Day, and then we'll talk about these office hours. We're going to kind of break this down a little bit to help you all understand it a little better. So that goes into the schedule. How might we get a schedule that is easy to understand? So what we've done is we've gotten some feedback from our parents with regard to schedules that were helpful to them. So every teacher is going to have a schedule like this, and that schedule is going to be available to families. So what I've asked my teachers to do is in their HyperDoc, they are going to provide when those students are having a synchronous learning experience, and our office hours have not changed. Those office hours are there. And remember, keep in mind, those office hours are optional, and that's really only if a student has a question. And you can type your questions into the parking lot anytime, and the teachers will answer those questions during their office hours. So they don't really need to interact during office hours. They can if they set something up individually with the teachers, but the office hours are really for you to type questions into the parking lot. So look at the synchronous learning schedule. This is what is going to be really helpful, I think, for our students. So if I'm in block 1, 2, doesn't matter what day, if it's an A day or B day in Miss Bailey's class, right? I'm in her block 1, 2. I know that on Monday from 12:45 to 1:05, I have my synchronous learning. If I'm in block 7, 8, I will have it on Wednesday at the same time. If I'm in her block 3, 4, I'm going to have it 1:10 to 1:30. And look at her Fridays. This is invitation only. So you may not receive an invitation, and if you don't get one, you don't attend. Keeping in mind, guys, that these are all optional. The other thing that I want to point out to everyone is um, Google Meets are not mandatory for synchronous learning. Those are options. We really wanted this week to give our teachers an opportunity to see our kids, to reconnect with them because they haven't seen them since March 11th, some since March 10th. So what we really wanted to do was this week kind of give everybody an opportunity to touch base with their teachers that they haven't seen in a while. So our synchronous learning is going to look different. It might be a Google Meet. It could be where the teachers have students fill out something in a Padlet. It might be a Kahoot that the students can work on individually. This is their designated time when they can do it. But if they want to do that at a different time, they're certainly welcome to do so. So this link over here that you're going to see, that is the link that is going to be available to all of our families as well, where you can click on that and you will get to see every teacher, and you can click on that teacher schedule and you'll get a copy of this schedule here. Okay. So let's move to this. What is this synchronous learning again? So the answer to this is kind of like what I said in the last slide. So synchronous learning has many possibilities. Basically, it is about an opportunity for students to have some engagement. Some engagement that can be through a Google Meet where they see their teacher. It can be through Nearpod or Kahoot or Padlet. All of these are different things that your students are very familiar with. And so what I've asked my teachers to do as a result of feedback is to indicate on the HyperDoc if their synchronous learning hours are Monday from 9 to 9:20, they're going to put on their synchronous learning experience Padlet, and they'll put it there so that the student knows I'm not going to get a Google Meet invitation for this. I'm not going to get that Google Meet invitation for this. Now, what I will say is students get this, but parents, you also get, you will get that Dean weekly memo. So you'll see that on there where it says Padlet, and then your student can go and do that Padlet or that Kahoot or that Nearpod. Or if they're having a Google Meet, that will be listed on there on that day. And those are all the possibilities for instructional tools that teachers can use. These are not mandatory. They don't have to participate. So I don't want kids stressing out about going to all of these different sessions because the teachers are splitting these sessions up. And those sessions might be a Monday, they might be a Wednesday, and it will be indicated on the HyperDoc. And they can attend, or if they would opt to not attend, they don't have to do that as well. It is optional. So again, we hear you. So where is Edmentum in all this? So Edmentum is only for the 4 core classes, and the teachers are incorporating this into their weekly HyperDoc. And they're also giving some optional additional material. So the kids can work on Edmentum. It's 30 minutes. That is it. When the students get to that 30 minutes, they're finished. They don't have to continue on. They can stop where they are after their 30 minutes. The teachers are providing some optional additional material because some of our students are going through Edmentum very quickly. I know that today there were some issues with kids getting kicked out of Edmentum, and that is more of the Edmentum than it is a school-based issue with that. And so that's just the usage, keeping in mind that all of the kids in the division are using it. So they're working out some kinks with regard to that as well. So, workload. What does my student need to do? The first thing is I don't want kids to stress about this. This is really a stressful enough time with families who are trying to manage working at home and having multiple students in multiple different grade levels, and you're getting inundated with all of this information. So the most important thing is I don't want anybody to stress because we are working through this together. That's the most important thing. We know from from the feedback that we've gotten from our parents, the first thing that we're going to do is you're not going to get all of those emails anymore. Okay, everything is going to come through the HyperDoc. The synchronous learning, it's going to be a designated time. It's going to specify what it is, and it may not be a Google Meet. It could be a variety of things, but that is all in that one document on that one form. Each class is only to provide up to 30 minutes of instruction per day. So when you reach that 30 minutes, you can stop. Okay? You do not have to go on. Um, Synchronous learning may not be a Google Meet. It might be a Padlet. It might be a Nearpod. And teachers will communicate that information in the HyperDoc. So keeping in mind, like going back to those questions that I was getting from lots of parents, you're going to get a specific schedule with teacher hours and when they're going to do the synchronous learning. You are going to have one place where you can go to for all of your information. Office hours are optional. Kids do not need to sit um, in the parking lot waiting to type a question. They don't have to do that. That's not necessary. They can type a question and move on. If they want to type a question at 7 o'clock in the morning, they can type that question in, and during the teacher's time for office hours, he or she can answer that. So the HyperDoc is really the launching point that has all of this information. And again, you do not need to attend every single Google Meet meeting. If there is a Google Meet, if it is whole class, the teachers will post it in their Google Classroom, okay? So students don't need to be stressed about doing that as well. So I know this is like some information. My hope is that I've kind of answered some of your questions with regard to, again, going back to the first thing, which was how can we streamline the process with emails? We have done that and we will do that. You will get everything once a week in the HyperDoc. The second thing was about I need a schedule that is going to give me the specific time that my student can participate in a synchronous learning experience, whatever that might be. That is done. We have a schedule. Every teacher has it. You will get that information. Everything will be in the HyperDoc so you will know. What I do have is some teachers are saying, I want to link my schedule directly to my HyperDoc. So they'll have that information. So everything is housed in one place. Okay. The other thing is I defined what synchronous learning was. It could be a variety of different things. And some of those might be, we have a specific time that it's supposed to happen, but students can do this on their own. So they can do a Padlet on their own or what have you, or some Google Slides where they're kind of interacting with their teacher. It's not necessarily a face-to-face meeting. And then, of course, where does Edmentum fit? It's the 4 core. You do 30 minutes or finish whatever that activity is that was scheduled for the day, and then you're done. So I don't want you guys to stress about this information. I'm hoping this cleared things up for you a little bit. And I always like to end all of my meetings with my staff with um, these kind of gifts to kind of get them to think about where they are with this. So thank you guys for your help, for your support, for your continued thoughtfulness, and for your communication. My hope is that this video provided a little bit of clarity. And next week, you will see this in the HyperDocs launching. We will be ready. But this week, teachers will make sure that you understand what the synchronous learning experience looks like. So thank you again and have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys.